Okay, well, thank you for watching our videos up to this point. I appreciate all my viewers here. Um, so the last video that you saw left off in the fall there. We were in Carolina Beach, and we had some big ships news, and that news was the possibility of a small beta diesel being gifted to us, a small generator motor that I was going to try to convert to a propulsion motor. So after that Carolina Beach video, I kind of dropped off of filming and doing videos. We had a good trip to Florida. We made it all the way down. We wound up landing in Melbourne. There's a little cove there in O'Galley, back off the intercoastal. So we wound up going there. I went to Titusville. I picked up that motor, and that motor wound up being a bust. It was I never heard it run or anything. It was in slightly rougher condition than advertised, which, hey, you're being given something. When are you going to complain about it? It was not technically a beta. It was, man, I'm trying to remember the name. There's a generator company that makes marine diesel generators, and they use the same block. They use the same base motor, which is a Kubota diesel, and that Beta uses. So I got a hold of that motor. I started doing the research on it. I found the transmission. I found all the bits and pieces, but it wasn't easy. My first point of contact was Beta itself, because I was thinking it was a Beta motor, because there wasn't any badging on it other than what was on the heat exchanger, and that was stamped, in the casting it said Beta, so it looked like a Beta to me. So I contacted them. They were extremely unhelpful. They didn't want to talk to me at all. They wanted nothing to do with me. The woman that I spoke with, she was sympathetic, and she did at least check with her superiors to see if they would sell me parts, and they absolutely would not. If you're outside of any network, especially if it's not labeled a Beta to begin with, it just had Beta parts on it, they wanted nothing to do with me. Understandably, that's fine. And then the generator company, it was the same story there. They were not helpful, because they didn't want me converting it to out of a generator into a propulsion motor. So I kept running into dead ends. I did eventually wind up finding. I found the transmission. I found all the bits and pieces that I could use to make it go, but the sheer amount of what it would have taken to yank out that ginormous Nissan diesel that was in WaterBear and get all the bits and pieces together, get all this, it winds up being financially not worth it. So I wound up lugging that Beta around. I couldn't give that thing away. We wound up keeping WaterBear as she was. We left the cove in O'Galley right a little bit after Christmas. I had gotten some work there. Miserable little cove in there, very, very rough time. We wound up after that last video of mine, and after we made it to Florida, it wound up being kind of a downward spiral, through many factors. I don't know exactly how to articulate which of those factors was the biggest one, but I know that one of the factors was just the general. We had been on WaterBear for a couple years. We had cruised another boat before that, so we had been cruising for about 6 years at that point. Most of it motorless, because the prior boat that we had didn't have an inboard either. That was a Scanmar 33, Swedish sailboat. And that one started out with a motor, but we lost the transmission in our second year of cruising and wound up going motorless in that. It's a tale for another time. I may tell that tale sometime. So at any rate, we'd been motorless for whatever it was, 4 or 5 years in 2 different boats. And we wound up going from the cove in O'Galley down to Vero. I rarely make any money in Vero, and this turned out to be the same. I didn't make any money in Vero. We were there for a couple weeks. So then we wound up going down to Stewart, the mooring field there in Stewart. Actually, first the anchorage there, Pendarvis, and then the mooring balls there. We really like Stewart a lot. I did pretty well down there. I wound up getting a job in a canvas shop. Also a disaster, as these things tend to go. I could do an entire separate YouTube channel on the follies of canvas shops, of what I've experienced, worked in. I grew up around this stuff. My dad was a canvas man. I've worked in a lot of them. I knew going into this one in Stewart it was going to be a bad idea. It was a couple of knuckleheads that didn't have anything to do with canvas that owned a store that had a canvas shop in it, and they didn't know anything about anything, but they were offering me a very high salary, a very high pay, hourly pay, to come in and help them get this shop going and be the guy there. And I was like, all right, sounds good. Stewart was nice. We were enjoying the mooring field, and just generally the whole vibe down there. So I went to work there. It was a challenge to say the least, it's just another one of those situations that to me is fairly normal. To you watching this, it may not be, but you encounter these people in the boating world, the canvas world, the boating world. You encounter all different types. And these guys, they bought this place, more money than brains, basically, and no concept of reality. I told them when I went in there, okay, here's what I do. Here's my specialties. Here's what I'm good at. These are the things in canvas that I can do. And what that doesn't include is marine upholstery, like the things you would see on like power boats, like the vinyl, like the stapled bolsters and the vinyl with all the different colors in it and all that stuff. I can do that to a degree, helm chairs, all these things, but I don't do it well. And I know it's just not something I was ever really interested in, so I never really got great at that. I don't like upholstery. Generally with marine upholstery like that, you're rebuilding the wood and replacing it with like starboard or something else back there. There's all the stapling things. It's just not part of the parts of canvas that I specialize in. I'm more of a flat panel, box cushion. I do bimini tops, I do Dodgers, I do all the covers that you would see on boats. As far as cushion work goes, I build mattresses, I do nice box cushion work, but I don't do that heavy vinyl crap. I just don't like it. It's just not something that I like to do. And I told these guys that. And of course, what do they do? What do they sell when I come in there? Is a bunch of vinyl upholstery work. I told them I don't do this, but they didn't believe me, so we had to prove that was true. I did my best. I wound up flaming out of there on a helm chair. I did a whole bunch of nice stuff for them. They were very happy. Got them all caught up on everything. Got the shop organized. Kate started working there, out front, and did all the things, all the things that they asked me to do, except the damn upholstery. I told them, and I wound up getting this complicated helm chair, just armrests and separate components, and really needed to be straight. You can buy one of these things cheaper than I can, it can be made anyway. And I wound up doing a bunch of hours on the thing to get it there. I finished it, but I got the big talk, and I had sticky notes all over the chair, things they didn't like on it. It wasn't perfect. I mean, it absolutely wasn't. I do very nice work, but when I'm out of my wheelhouse, what do you want? There was aspects to this stupid chair I just couldn't do. So at any rate, wound up leaving that place, and then Stewart wound up being a little tough because I couldn't find any more work. I'd done some other work, some freelance stuff out there. I made some money there. And then I just wanted to get a job at that point. I just wanted to have something a little more steady because we were planning on not following the hurricane circuit. We were going to not go north for hurricane season. We were going to stay there for the summer, stupidly. And but at the time, I didn't realize what a bad idea that was. Nothing to do with weather. Everything to do with how just the whole state shuts down. That area, Central Florida, is horrendous for trying to find work when season is over. And I lived that reality down there. I went, we stuck around. Everything was starting to dry up. It wasn't even summer yet. It was just like late spring. So I'm like, Jesus, man, we got to do something. So we went back up to Fort Pierce. What happened was in Stewart is they want insurance on your boat for the summer season, for hurricane season, to be on a ball. And I hadn't carried any insurance on WaterBear. Total pirate at the time. Not buying insurance, so I didn't have any insurance, and it's difficult to get insurance sometimes. And it wasn't so much the difficulty in just obtaining liability insurance as it was really more of a financial issue. I.e., I just didn't have any money for it. So went up to Fort Pierce, and we went up to I actually snagged a ball. There's a small mooring field there off of Causeway Cove Marina. There's not many balls out there, and it's like real end of the road type mooring field, really horrendous, and right next to the sewage plant. And we grabbed a ball there. I managed to get one, and so I gave it and it was cheap, and they didn't ask for insurance, so it was great. I figured I'd find something in Fort Pierce for work. I couldn't even get a job at Dunkin' Donuts. Oh my God, I've never struggled so much as I struggled there to try, and I didn't find any work. I didn't get anything, which was absolutely terrifying. We'd lived hand to mouth for like 6 years, and it was fine. I always found something somewhere, but man, oh man, I got off the cruiser circuit. I found myself in Central Florida in the summer on a boat with no money. Very bad, with a kid and a wife and everything. Terrible, terrible combination of things to let yourself fall into. I tried restaurants, I tried everything, and nobody wanted me. Nobody's hiring. I mean, I understand it. It's not season or whatever, and couldn't find anything in Florida. There was nothing in Fort Pierce. There was absolutely nothing happening for me there. So we found ourselves at a crossroad on WaterBear. She had gotten kind of to a point where the boat became rough living for us, and when you have an unhappy family, as the man of the family, I had to make some decisions. I had to see what are we doing here, and it felt like it might have been time for us to get off the boat. So we had an opportunity arise where the timing just so happened to work out that my mother-in-law, Kate's mother, has a house, and they have an in-law apartment off the back of their house. And that's where Kate's grandmother lived for 25 years or whatever. And she had recently moved out of there. So we wound up moving into that. We jumped off the boat and moved everything off the boat in like a day. I mean, just ran screaming from WaterBear, unfortunately. And left her on the ball down there and came back to Maryland and moved back to land. Swallowed the anchor, as they say. And wound up putting WaterBear up for sale for a very attractive price. I mean, it's still a West Sail 32, and as you saw from the videos, she wasn't horrible at all. I mean, we lived on that boat for a long time. It was a nice boat. I did a lot of work to that boat. And a boat with no inboard isn't worth all that much to begin with, so she wasn't worth much, but I did put her up for sale at an attractive price, and she did sell relatively quickly with little hassle, and we used that money to get ourselves going up there. We went up there, borrowed a little bit to even get there. I mean, we were out of money by that point, and sold WaterBear. I think we sold her like 30 days later. I mean, I got rid of that boat fast, and that gave us a little chunk of money there to get started. Bought a car and started doing some things. So we moved up into the in-law apartment. I'd gotten rid of WaterBear, had a little chunk to get started with, and started trying to adapt to land life. Getting used to things on land again, seeing how it felt, how it fit. For me, it never took even right away. I was pretty much unhappy. I mean, I was definitely happy with things like running water, first world sanitation. You flush a toilet, it goes away, you don't have to deal with it. All those kinds of things. Obviously, after all those years of lugging my own water and dealing with my own waste and all that was fantastic. I mean, it's like Tom Hanks in Castaway when he's flipping the light switch on and off after he gets back to land. You're just so relieved and in wonder of how easy life is. It never really took other than that stuff for me. It took for the gals a little bit better. It was definitely a break that they needed, and I'm glad that we had it. But it slowly quickly kind of deteriorated. Just you settle into this life, and it's all the things that we had gotten onto a boat for to begin with. It's like the driving on the highways all the time, the slog of just like work, store, home, what's for dinner, what's for lunch, work, store, home. I mean, it just goes and goes. If you know what I'm talking about, if you understand. So pretty quickly after that, we wound up, I missed boats, and we were having some friction already with being at the in-laws. I mean, it just is what it is. So I felt like, we all kind of felt like, well, we could stand to have a place to go to, a boat that's livable, but still stay in the apartment here but have a boat. So we decided to buy another boat, and we bought a power boat. We bought an Egg Harbor, a 33-foot Egg Harbor Sport Fish, of all things for a sailor to find himself in. Someone I know, I didn't know at the time because I was just looking at boats, and I wound up contacting the person, and it so happened to be somebody I know that was selling the boat, which was just bizarre. But we struck a deal. He let me make payments, and I bought this stupid thing. Motor's not running. Typical me, right? Except buy something with no sails that doesn't have motors running in it. But it was on the hard, and what appealed to us about it was we were just going to stick it in a slip somewhere locally, not really use the thing much, but use it as like a getaway, and maybe slowly work on it. None of that happened. It wound up being, we bought it, and I regretted it after walking away after I gave the guys, the person some money on the boat. I regretted that thing instantly. We all did, but what are you going to do at that point? You're stuck. So I made the payments on it, paid it off. It took me a couple months. I think I paid him off really quick. I think I paid him off with, I don't know, it was like a month or two. It was fast. I got that thing knocked out and put it up for sale. And I wound up letting the next guy make payments. I sold it for a little bit less than we got it for. I didn't make anything on it at all, as it typically tends to go with boats. And I let it go. I let the guy make payments on it. Now, I got out of it, luckily, because, man, that's a tough nut there. And got out of that thing. But we were still into boats, So it was still the same situation. A little bit of friction at the place. A future that is definitely not going to be... We didn't have and we don't have a future in that apartment or that house. And we are not going to buy a house. So what we decided to do was we're definitely, we wanted to go back to boat life. So we found another boat. We found the boat I'm sitting in right now. I'm sitting here in a Corbin 39. Very cool boat. Very nice. Big boat. Pilot house. Very well regarded. I tend to try to buy nice boats. Even the Egg Harbor's well regarded, but that was a bad purchase. But all our prior boats, were nice boats. Well regarded, as is this one. Corbin 39s they're nice. So this one, its deal is it has a very well running motor, runs fantastic, very low hours, like 115 hours on this Volvo in here. It was repowered, so the person I got it off of, the boat sat for a long time. He got it in some estate sale thing. He was kind of like a nautical hoarder. He had a Grand Banks and is very well off. He had his own little cove, bunch of boats in it, bunch of cars, big house right on the point, all this stuff. But clearly not doing anything with the boat. He had it up for sale, and I made him an offer on it, again with the payments. I gave him a good chunk down, and made payments on this one and paid it off. And here we sit in this big Corbin 39. It's her name's Winona, which might change. I don't know. We may or may not keep the name, but so we're sitting here in Winona, and we're still in the apartment, but we're in the process of moving out. We're wrapping up our affairs, so to speak. And doing some repair work, some things on this boat. She runs great. I've driven her up the bay. We've driven her to this place. She's a good running boat. Needs things, as all boats do. The biggest thing I'm working on right now is the hydraulic steering. Trying to get that going. There was an issue with it leaking, and it's got two helms. So I'm currently in the process. I got the upper helm rebuilt and fixed. Needed a seal kit, so I got that done. I filled it up. I'm trying to bleed it. I think I'm having an issue bleeding it. And we might have an issue with the lower helm. There's some weirdness going on. So I'm working on that project. Other than that, it's all small projects. I got to get some sail slugs installed on the main sail that I have for this boat. And we've just been waiting out a really, really cold winter. As you know, this last current winter here, and I'm making this video in 2025 here. This is almost March. And it's been a brutally cold winter for everybody in America, and us included. And we have just been polar vortex after polar vortex. So it's now finally starting to break. The birds are chirping. I'm in less clothing. We can start to do work on the boat, and it is occurring. So we're going to be on the boat here in these next few episodes. Land life sucks, and just generally ages you, I think, and just really... there was a reason that we left that to begin with, and we're definitely itching to get back aboard. I mean, this is a great boat. I mean, she's really super nice. I'm going to do a little tour video here of it, either in this video or the next one. And that's where we're at. So the next chapter begins on Winona, or if we change her name. So stay tuned. I hate saying stuff like this. Like and subscribe, tell your friends, all that stuff, and stay tuned. Thank you.